Hey guys, Spirit of the Lie here. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Turks, and specifically how the design of the civilization evolved between Age of Kings, released in 1999, and the most current version of the game in 2022. This is the 10th of the original 13 civilizations we're looking at in our Through the Ages series, and I'd argue they're one of the ones that has changed the most since the early days, largely thanks to how differently gunpowder itself is handled. Let's check them out. Jumping back in time to the original release of Age of Kings, Turks had some pretty notable differences to their bonuses. First, their gunpowder HP bonus used to give plus 50%, which is a big jump, and specifically mentions their gunpowder techs were half the cost of other civilizations. If you're a newcomer to the game, you might think that means chemistry or be otherwise confused about what techs they're talking about getting a discount. The reason for any confusion is that of the 5 techs this was originally referencing, only 2 still exist. Originally, gunpowder units were actually significantly more difficult to access. One example is the tech hand cannon, which was required before hand cannoneers could be trained, with a significant food cost and a fairly long 50-second research time. There was another similar tech for bombard cannons and for cannon galleons as well, all of this on top of the requirement, of course, to get chemistry first. At this point, the only 2 of the 5 gunpowder techs remaining are the bombard tower, which Turks still have a discount when researching, as well as the elite cannon galleon upgrade. Their next bonus was that their gold miners work 15% faster, which you may recognize as being a little weaker than the 20% it is today. Just like they do now, they got chemistry for free and also the light cavalry upgrade, which is now a significantly better bonus as it extends to the later added Hussar. Finally, they also had the exact same team bonus for faster gunpowder unit creation. Maybe their largest change since the early days though has been some tweaks behind the scenes to their unique unit, the Janissary. Originally, they had significantly lower attack, but a hidden bonus against infantry and buildings to compensate. The anti-infantry aspect makes them sound very similar to the hand cannoneer, which has always had 10 bonus damage against infantry. In fact, they may sound too similar, but one notable difference in the AW2 alpha is that hand cannoneers had a minimum range, just like skirmishers, whereas Janissaries didn't, which was a description that accidentally carried through to release despite the minimum range being removed at the last minute. Janissaries also distinguish themselves by having one more range, which they still have today, and can make them especially dangerous in Castle Age. Elite Janissaries are also unusual as being the only land unit besides the Mangonel line that still have 0 frame delay, meaning they're more responsive to your attacking commands than other units, including the hand cannoneer. Originally, the units weren't going to be as similar. Janissaries were at one point intended to be a durable archer unit, which actually would have made more sense in Castle Age than early access to gunpowder without chemistry, and I've even seen speculation that the Imperial upgrade would then turn them into a hand cannon variant. Instead though, what we got was the Janissary as a gunpowder unit from the start, setting a precedent for Spanish in Age of Conquerors to also have a Castle Age gunpowder unique unit. Alpha version Janissaries were also visually different in that they had large hats, inspired by illustrations of Janissaries and especially the more elite Solaks, and in fact that's the version that appears in early official manuals. Late in development, however, Microsoft lawyers got involved and made them remove the hats, giving the hatless version we ended up with. The AoE2 wiki says this is because testers and Ensemble employees would comment that the Janissary looked like hooded units you probably shouldn't have in your game, and while I haven't found that claim in a more official source, it at least seems like a plausible explanation. Peterson mentions at one point that lawyers would never have allowed them put the Pope in the game, and maybe someone thought Janissary hats were too similar to the Pope, which to me has a much closer resemblance. In fairness, the original game was significantly more pixelated, and it seems to have been a decision made in an abundance of caution. To this day though, a version with the tall hats still exists in the scenario editor under the name Royal Janissary. I should point out though, at other times it seems Microsoft's lawyers were a bit more brave in handling small controversies. On a previous video I made covering the real-world maps, Zanny Peterson commented that Korean officials threatened to arrest Ensemble Studios' representative in Seoul because they hadn't named the Sea of Japan map Sea of Korea. In this case, they didn't fully back down, at least in the English version of the game, adding EC in brackets in addition to the original name as a pragmatic compromise. Wisely though, when the game language is set to Korean, it sticks with the name EC. Getting back to the Turks though, the original design was very clearly trying to make their identity the gunpowder civ in Age of Kings, and to keep them as a late bloomer, which I think is still a fair description today. The Conquerors expansion in 2000 though brought a number of significant changes. First, their gunpowder unit HP bonus was dropped from plus 50% to 25, and the new unique tech artillery was also introduced, giving extra range to cannon-based units and buildings. Janissaries were also overhauled, gaining more base attack, but losing their bonus against infantry and buildings. Altogether, this made them a better generalist unit against things like heavy cavalry, while also letting hand cannoneers keep more of the anti-infantry specialty. Increasing the difference between those two units, the Janissary's accuracy was also reduced, while the hand cannoneers was improved. The Conquerors expansion is also when their free light cavalry upgrade was helped greatly with the introduction of both Hussars and Bloodlines. Getting Bloodlines as well as Thumbring and Parthian tactics also greatly improved their cavalry archers, and it was really decisions made in the Conquerors expansion more than anything else that decided which civilizations were going to have cavalry archers as a viable option. At the same time, Sandy Peterson specifically mentions not budging on giving pikemen to keep Turks in check, and while I've never seen them considered top tier on open maps, their large Imperial Age power spike has always made that something to be wary of from a design perspective. A removal of the hand cannon and bombard cannon prerequisite techs in the Conquerors expansion also allowed for a viable fast Imperial strategy as Turks. Even with their discount and free chemistry, it was still an extra barrier in both resources and even more critically time, where it would take almost an extra minute longer to create your first gunpowder units. Suddenly, in Conquerors, and retroactively applied to Age of Kings as well, the second you hit Imperial Age, you could begin producing hand cannons and bombard cannons, which led to the rise of Turks as the fast Imperial civilization on closed maps especially, but also just a dangerous early Imperial civ on any map. Building off of that, the Forgotten expansion in 2013 tried to expand the Turks' identity to include cavalry archers, introducing a unique tech that gave them at least statistically maybe the strongest cavalry archers in the game. The only other small fix introduced was the elite Janissary's creation time had previously not been affected by their team bonus, which was likely unintended and fixed. Shortly after, in African kingdoms, their gold miners were buffed from 15% to 20% faster. Turks around this time were not considered very good, mostly due to a lack of early bonuses and a heavy reliance on gold, while this bonus seemed geared to help in the mid-game, with everything from archers and cavalry archers to knights and camels. To give an anecdote of the general sentiment from the time, in Zero Empire's list of the worst 1v1 civilizations in AoE 2, Turks were listed as number 1. Unfortunately, we don't know the online win rate stats from the time, but presumably they weren't doing great. Another buff, albeit an indirect one in African kingdoms, is that the Berbers Genitur team unit was added, which, while probably not designed with Turks in mind, ended up giving them a great replacement for the elite skirmisher, as Turk Geniturs benefit from their cavalry archer unique tech. Even after both direct and indirect buffs, heading into 2019's definitive edition, Turks were still struggling. To address that, the scout line was given +1 pierce armor and the elite Janissary's accuracy was improved to 65%. Gunpowder projectiles were also sped up by about a third as part of a general push for better hand cannoneers, making their shots a bit harder to dodge. Overall, as I said off the top, it really feels like Turks have changed quite a bit, even if other civilizations technically have had a greater number of total changes. Over time, they really doubled down on the scout line and cavalry archer as units to build around, which has made Turks feel at least more interesting to play. They're still completely unique for lacking the combination of elite skirmisher, pikeman, and onager, making them very reliant on gold, and I can't see that ever changing as it's become such a trademark of the civilization. Despite all that and the many civilizations that have since been added, the gunpowder identity has stuck, and players have found ways to make a fast Imperial into hand cannoneers or castle drops with Janissaries very potent strategies on especially Arena. Even after the addition of the Poles and Bohemians, Turks are still regarded as a top-tier Arena civ, which is also backed up by the stats. Even on open maps like Arabia though, they really aren't in a bad spot these days by any means, and the improvements to their scout line and gold income seem to have helped stabilize them in the early game. While on some level those changes aren't in keeping with the concept of a late bloomer gunpowder focused civ, it's also important to recognize with the ever rising skill level leading to a general speeding up of the game, a purely late game civ just isn't viable, and some compromise was needed. That'll do it for this one though, and hopefully that was an interesting look back at a very unique feeling civilization. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.